Hello everyone and welcome back to our new series Comparing History. In it, we're going to put legends of basketball against each other in a mirror and see where those comparisons take us. Are we trying to debate the age-old GOAT question? Not necessarily. This is more of a discussion between us all on the overall legend each guy's created for themselves. The pantheon of NBA history is a huge one. It shouldn't be boiled down to a definitive, this guy is 100% better than the other. So with that being said, let's get into our next duo, Kobe Bryant and Dwyane Wade. In 2003, Wade County was born. A young shooting guard coming out of Marquette, was just drafted 5th overall to the Miami Heat. Growing up in Chicago and attending college in Wisconsin, Dwyane Wade was a Midwest guy. You might have thought his initial reaction after walking off of his plane and seeing South Beach would be a culture shock. Gone were the days of flat fields on the horizon. Now the aspiring shooting guard had palm trees and an NBA legacy to create. And it started off hot. Wade finished his rookie season as the third leading scorer on a team that went to the second round of the playoffs. Pat Riley knew he had his next great star, and believed he'd be ready to take the jump to contending for a title quicker than most. So the following year, they added a multi-time champion in Shaquille Oneal. And just like that, the Heat found themselves in the NBA Finals, relying on their sophomore superstar. Wade's unearthly athleticism and slashes to the rim made him practically unstoppable in his heyday. He stood at 6'4" and had 220 pounds of pure muscle on him. He averaged 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists in the finals loss. The Flash was letting loose on offense, but he also was utilizing his speed on the other end of the floor. With Shaq manning the paint, Wade dashed around the floor and averaged almost 2 steals a game. After a playoff run so close to the finish line, the superstar shooting guard and center duo ran it back and won the 2006 finals. Wade was just 24 years old and a finals MVP. So what's a guy supposed to do who's already been to the finals twice and won one of them before he even hit his mid-20s? I don't know, maybe become a perennial all-star, grab a scoring title in 2009, and you know what? Why not? Throw some all-defensive team selections in there as well. Dwyane Wade was making Miami his city. So much so that in 2010, when Wade hit free agency, the county renamed themselves from Miami-Dade County to Miami-Wade County for the first week of free agency. Speaking of 2010, that was a pretty good year for Wade and company. It was the year the super team took over the world. LeBron James and Chris Bosh came to South Beach and would team up with Wade. Shaq at this point is long gone, and the Heat have been searching for who to put around the 29-year-old Wade. So why not one of the greatest players of all time and another perennial all-star? That ought to do it. The Heatles of the early 2010s were something out of a comic book. They ran for 4 years and went to the finals every year. Add on 2 more rings to Wade's hand and you got yourself a Hall of Fame career that still had 5 more years to go. Those 5 years were a bit of a mixed bag though. The Heat saw some relative playoff success with first and second round exits, but at a certain point the relationship was starting to sour between the star and the franchise. Wade felt that he was getting disrespected during negotiations for his next contract in 2016. Then, after much back and forth, he decided it was time to go home. After 13 years with the Heat, Wade was headed to Chicago. His time in Chicago would be summed up as a single season with a first-round exit. It was a moment in Wade's career where contending for a title seemed long gone. But when your old buddy LeBron calls you up, you hop on the first flight to Cleveland and try and run it back. Which, didn't happen. At all. The 2017-2018 Cavs were a mess, and it landed Wade back in his home away from home by the end of the trade deadline. He reconciled with Wade County for his final 2 years in the league, and then walked away from the court. And since we've taken a look at Wade's prime times a bit, let's look back at some of his stats. From his first to last championship, a whopping 9 years, Wade averaged 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists, with the cherry on top of just under 2 steals a game. His scoring title year in 2009 was 30.2 points a game. Runners-up that year were LeBron James and our guy, Kobe Bryant. Kobe would act as a continual goal for Wade throughout his career. He was a Chicago kid through and through, so MJ was his GOAT. But Kobe was who he set out to match. Raised in Philly, Kobe Bryant was a sought-after commodity during his high school years. As a student at Lower Merion, Kobe aimed to be one of the next kids to jump straight from high school to the NBA. He was being scouted by multiple teams, even did some workouts with his hometown Sixers. But he ended up getting drafted by the Hornets with a 13th pick in the 1996 draft. It looked to be that Bryant was destined for a life on the East Coast. Except the Hornets immediately traded their new rookie selection to the Lakers in exchange for Vlade Divac. Leave a comment if you want the next Comparing History episode to be Kobe vs. Vlade. I'm sure they'll really size up well next to each other. For the sake of time, we won't end up going into as much detail about Kobe's career path as we did with Wade. Bryant's journey is one we all know and love as fans. The way he won over the entire city of LA, his early struggles in the playoffs, but then rocketed to success alongside Shaq for a three-peat. Kobe was 24 years old when Wade entered the league. He already had 3 rings, a bar Wade was determined to reach. Kobe was the first superstar shooting guard that matched up with Shaq. I'm sure Shaquille would describe his relationship with Bryant from those days very differently from his time with Wade. Kobe was that killer. The player that was going to show up to practice before everyone and not leave until the lights go out. His determined mentality may have isolated him at times with many of the stars around the league, but he and Shaq's relationship was able to turn into a beautiful love-hate, big brother, little brother dynamic that made them both legends of the game. Kobe did have a little bit of height on Wade at 6'6", but wasn't that same brute ball of muscle at only 212 pounds. He could drive to the rim with the best of them, but was much more of a mid-range killer than anything. So much so that he won 2 scoring titles with averages of 31.6 points and an insane 35.4. These were the years of solo Black Mamba. 2005 to 2007 put Shaq over with Wade competing in finals. Kobe was competing on his own. There were super team attempts, just like Wade, but these were aging superstars, not LeBron and Bosh. The Lakers tried giving Kobe guys like Karl Malone and Gary Payton, or old Steve Nash and a young but difficult to work with Dwight Howard. The Heatles were built off of a sense of camaraderie, not hungry vets trying to ride Kobe's coattails. Eventually, Kobe got his new big man in Paul Gasol. They pulled off back-to-back titles and got Kobe's right hand to a ring on each finger. Add in an MVP, and the 13th overall draft pick did all right in his career. As we wrap up and look at these two side by side, we see a lot of similarities. Some uncanny ones, like champions by the age of 24 with the same running mate of Shaq, but some splintering career paths where Wade walks away from being the face of the franchise. Something Kobe actually tried to do as well at one point. He wanted to go to Chicago, the same place Wade ended up going. But Bryant remained in LA his whole career. An interesting thought experiment to lay out if the paths were reversed. What if we only ever saw Wade in a jersey, but Kobe in multiple? He goes to a season in Chicago and then gets called up by old running mate Shaq on the Suns to try and run it back. Who knows what could have happened? Both were dynamite on both sides of the ball as well. The shooting guard position at the top of the all-time list has a lot of two-way players. MJ, Kobe, and Wade were all effective at pushing the pace for their team, as well as stifling the opponents. Kobe earned 12 all-defensive selections to Wade's 3. Kobe had a 20-year career, averaging 25, 5, and 5. Wade had a 16-year path, averaging 22, 5, and 5. Just a 3-point difference between the Flash and Mamba. Thank you all for watching this episode of Comparing History. Let us know in the comments what players you want to see next, and I'll catch you in the next one.